Hey there, it's Nobe, and in today's video we will be drawing a cute ghost character while I read your creepy, scary stories in the spirit of Halloween. First, I'll briefly go over the character I'll be drawing today, and then we'll jump into the stories while I draw. So, let's get started. The character that I'm working on today is Izzy. Izzy is a ghost lighthouse keeper who never seems to get enough sleep and is constantly taking naps, but she is currently trying to fix her sleep schedule. Izzy really loves her job and wants to do her best to make sure all of the monsters arrive safely to shore. I will say, with her design in general, I really love her little chunky sweater and peacoat, and I want them for myself, to be honest. But anyway, now that Izzy has been introduced to you all, it is time to get cozy while I read you some scary stories. Some stories may have mature topics, so listener discretion is advised. My father passed away when I was around 12 years old. When we moved back into my childhood home, I would randomly wake up in the middle of the night and go into the living room to see him sitting in his recliner or up at the fireplace looking at the trophies or pictures up there. He never looked in my direction or spoke to me, but it would always scare me to see him up and around, especially since we never had a funeral for him, and I never saw his body or anything to say my goodbyes. I would avoid graveyards for the longest because if I went in, I would be scared that one day I would see his name on a tombstone. It was around 1:33 a.m. I walked up to the liquor store and entered the building. I was in search of something light that wasn't enough to make me drunk, but to ease my mind of stress. I couldn't think of what drink I wanted, so I decided to see if the employee had any suggestions. As I approached the counter, I noticed no one was there. This usually happens if the employee was busy stocking or tending to some other matter. I yelled hello to get someone's attention, but there was no response. The air was weirdly tense and quiet. I felt uncomfortable as if someone was watching me. I decided to walk around the store until I found something I might like, and it took around 5 minutes. To be honest, I really wasn't into alcohol, but this particular night had me craving it to relieve some stress I had. I came back to the counter and there was still no employee. This time I shouted that I was ready to be rung up, but still no answer. I was yet again feeling quite uncomfortable. Suddenly, I heard the bell of the entrance door ring as if someone was coming in. I turned and took a quick glance behind me to see no one was there. I was a little confused and turned back to the counter only to find the employee staring back at me with a wide grin and head slightly tilted down, giving him a sinister look. I jerked back, not expecting anyone to be behind the counter so fast without making a sound. He continued to smile as I put my drink on the counter for him to ring it up. He didn't say anything at all. He just stared at me the whole time while he rang up the drink and put it in the paper bag for me. He held the bag in one hand and put his hand out towards me with his other. $10.99, please, he said without changing his expression. I placed a 10 and a $1 bill in his hand and told him to keep the change. I was actually shaking while handing it to him. I didn't realize how terrified I was. He finally let go of his gaze to look at the money in his hand. He then looked at me still with that same freaking expression and said, "Thank you, and get out while you still can." My eyes widened, realizing what he had said. I took my drink from him and walked straight out the door. I looked back as I left the building, and he was at the door still staring. 2 years ago, my grandparents were moved into a nursing home near my house. They went from living an hour away to just a few minutes away, so I would visit them regularly. My grandfather was suffering from dementia, but for the most part was in decent enough health. One night, I had a dream that I went to visit them while they were still living in their old house. They never slept in the same bed, always had separate rooms, but for some reason in this dream, I found them laying together in bed. I went to wake them and saw that they were actually physically attached together at the arm. My grandmother woke up, but my grandfather didn't. She said, "He's trying to leave, but I can't let him. I don't want to." I helped lift them both from the bed and somehow was able to walk my grandmother outside with my grandfather still attached to her arm. We were standing in the doorway of the porch, watching as it began to rain outside when I told her, "Granny, you have to let him go or he's going to take you with him." At that moment, I helped my grandmother outside into the rain. I watched as the rain seemed to make my grandfather fade away until it was just my grandmother standing alone. I helped her back inside and held on to her until I woke up from the dream. The next day, I found out that my grandfather passed away in his sleep. My friend told me she has a ghost named Isaac that resides in her house, but I never experienced it firsthand until this incident. I was sleeping over at hers, a seemingly normal night. There were other people in the house, but it's a big place and we weren't disturbed. My friend has a lot of toys, statues, and memorabilia, some of it displayed so high up and out of the way that you can't reach it without a ladder or climbing up on furniture. I can't exactly remember whether we were talking about that stuff or just doing our usual thing. All I do remember is that the next morning I woke up to find one of the things from the highest, furthest away shelf right next to my head. For my friend to have moved it, she would have had to climb over me and scramble over all the furniture to get it. Plus, she looked just as shook as me. Other people don't believe me about this, but I know that if someone had tried to sneak into the room to do that while we were sleeping, it wouldn't have been possible. Not only would it be a nightmare to get to without making a sound, her bedroom door had this huge creak when it opened. It would have literally been impossible for anyone to sneak in without waking us. My family has a lot of stories about spooky stuff, but the most vivid for me, and still makes me angry, is the thing in the basement of my father's home. I had just moved back to Kansas the last time, because, of course, this place is a black hole for me. I stepped into the house and it felt off, but I assumed it was me being tired and not so excited to live with his wife again. To have the layout of the house, from the top of the stairs, there's a wooden railing to the top right and light switch 1 is on the left. Facing down the stairs, there is a wall on both sides that opens up to the left. Once I reached the bottom, I swear I saw something there, but assumed it was just shadows. You head into a wall walking down, then do a 180 around the left of the stairs to an open space. It's a fully finished basement, so it never looked quote-unquote spooky. At the base of the stairs on the other side of the wall is light switch 2. My father flipped it on and it started flickering. "Oh, it's just the wiring," he said, but I watched too many horror movies and felt someone smiling behind me and it gave me chills, but I didn't think too much into it. We walked through the open space and he was showing me everything. Starting from the opposite end of the stairs, starts the sort of second living space with a couple couches and light switch 3. And you can see 3 doors facing that direction. 2 bedrooms to the left of the couch, father's quote-unquote witching room to the right of the couch, and on the right wall, a half-finished storage room. A TV entertainment space on the opposing wall with another door under the stairs that was sort of a toss-it-all-in storage space that gave me the creeps because I swore I saw eyes. Lastly, on the left side of that space was a computer setup. I always felt like I was being watched. I hated it, but I slept on the couch down there. I hated those light switches because I'd have to run to them to keep out of the dark for too long. I felt a push of a burning hand on my back in the open space one day and almost fell and got called clumsy for it, even though no one had been behind me. I have a pierced lip, and back then I had a captive bead labret ring. I woke up to it bent into my lip and struggled to remove it, and I never found the bead. I explained it away in my head that I could have done it in my sleep even though I've never did anything like that before. It was stress-induced, of course. Couldn't be something nefarious. Another time, I felt a warm hand on my arm, and I swore I saw the print. I hated being down there alone. I kept running and fighting with the light switches. On the final day, after maybe 1 or 2 weeks dealing with this thing, I turned on the 3rd switch for the basement lights. There was one for the living room and the space next to the stairs separately, and started sprinting to the stairs, and suddenly it went dark once I had made it to the 2nd switch. I heard a cold laugh, then soon after, a familiar female voice saying, "Run to the light," as clear as speaking to someone in person. I ran faster than I thought I ever could, even in track, hit the switch at the top, and felt something grab my ankle as I reached for it. I can only assume I hit it just in time. I turned back to see this humanoid shadow shape crawling back down the stairs with a mocking smile like, I dare you to come back down here. I'm obviously freaked out and wide-eyed. I looked to my left to see a woman I saw in a dream a while back on the other side of the stair railing, saying, "It's okay." She smiled and then jumped down and rushed after the shadow thing. At 4:06 a.m., I stayed upstairs crying and freaking out after what happened. I was rocking myself on the couch upstairs. My father was getting ready for work and he asked what was wrong, and I told him everything, to his response being, "Oh, you're just seeing things." I felt so betrayed by him. I had a red handprint on my damn ankle and I'm just seeing things. I just shut down and cried more. At 4:09 a.m., my father, being the type of person that he was, could never be one-upped by me in any fashion. This was a weird one to feel competitive over. He went into his witchy room, closed the door, then suddenly the bad wiring is totally fine. Still hated living there, but that was for other personal reasons. I still felt something down there, but never again from the thing that attacked me. Thank you to everyone who submitted their stories today. If you would like me to tell your story and or experience for the next video, please share them in the comments section below or tag me on Instagram or Twitter at NoveTheSeaGoat. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care of yourself, okay?